What has happened is that with the coming of the second term of Trump, his agenda is entirely different from what it was in his first term and what it was under the Biden administration. Both in his first term and in the first term and the Biden administration, the agenda was to intensify the security competition with China. That was the agenda, and specific to West Pacific. And the specific hotspots, they were Taiwan as well as South China Sea. Now, here India was playing a very important role because India had signed all the four basic foundation agreements, which are the military agreements, and has become a part of the US Indo-Pacific defense strategy, which is called integrated defense. So we are part of that. And in that, we have been assigned a role, or rather, we have accepted the role of being a net security provider, which encompasses everything, including combat in the Indian Ocean region. Now, what has happened is that in the second Trump administration, Trump has now decided that the national power of America needs to be strengthened. And for that, he is taking certain measures. For example, he is freeing Western Hemisphere of the outside influence of China as well as Russia, which is there. And then, as part of his Make America Great Again, he wants to bring back manufacturing. So his entire focus is on tariffs, it's on trade sanctions, it is on technology sanctions. This is where he has put the focus,
Mhm.
which means that where India was, suddenly now India is at a loss. Because what happens is that India, as you are well aware, and your viewers would be aware, that today in the multipolar world, there are three great powers, which is America, China, and Russia. Now, India has a problem with China. India not only has a border problem with China, but as India's External Affairs Minister Shankar repeatedly says, that both the countries are rising. That means India and China are rising. So, therefore, the relationship has become complex and we need to establish an equilibrium in the relationship. Now, what he is underplaying is the fact that while India is also rising, relatively China has risen so much that today it is a great power that the Americans need to compete with China.
Mhm.
So it's a different ball game. But the idea is to project to the people of India that yes, under the present government in India, that India has the gumption, India has the will to compete with China regionally. And for that, the American was required because it is important that we be plugged into the American security competition. That means all the leaders of the West, the global North leaders, the American leaders, they would be interacting very frequently with our people.
Mhm.
And
But does
as you
the
know, that was,
Yeah, I
huh?
just wanted to, I'm curious whether
Yeah.
this India is so now anchored into the American security matrix. So why should it then preclude at the same time cooperation with a country like China?
I've just explained that because we want to project that we are competing with China. Whereas the fact is that the Americans are competing with China, India is not competing with China. So
Mhm.
therefore, if there is normal ties between India and China, normal ties means that you have normal cooperation. Now, when you do normal cooperation, then the exact national power will come on the table.
Mhm.
Because what they can do, they would want to do trade with India, more trade with India. We cannot compete with the electric vehicles, we cannot compete with the solar panels, we cannot compete with the manufacturing. Actually, we cannot compete with so many things because China has really gone so much ahead.
Yeah, but then
So the whole,
there are other countries who have been outsmarted, outnumbered by China, but they are not competing with China. On the contrary,
correct,
it's a lot of
correct.
cooperation that is taking place.
India case is different. India case is different because India's thinking is, or rather the thinking of the Modi government is, that both the countries have 1.4 billion people. We both are big, we both are rising, so we both should be competing.
Mhm.
Now, there is no other country which has so huge population. So we are refusing to accept the reality that we cannot compete with China today.
Mhm.
That is the whole thing. So therefore, if we have to project that, we have to make sure that our flank with China is secure. And in our thinking, when I say our, that means the government thinking, if we are close to the Americans, if we are close with their security network, if we are part of that, that will deter China. This is the thinking.
Yeah, but this isn't it a curious situation, an extremely challenging one for a country like India, because the kind of national power projection that perhaps the Indian leaders want, that simply goes against the Trumpian philosophy, Trumpian thought of connecting via economic cooperation. So that security paradigm has basically been reduced into the second position, and Trump wants more and more to focus on the economy.
See, there are two issues here. The first issue is that I would want to tell people in India as well as in Pakistan that today there are three great powers, and it is important why I'm saying this repeatedly. The closest powers that are to us, the great powers, are China and Russia, and not America.
Mhm.
That is one. Now, as far as India is concerned, India, as I said, the whole idea is of this huge population and we are rising together. You see? So we want to be seen as competing with China, which is not possible. And China is not telling us that we want war. China is saying that yes, border problem is a problem, but keep it on one side and let's look at the overall relationship, which we don't want to do for the obvious reason. Coming to Trump, you see that Trumpinian thinking which is going on in the subcontinent. It's not only in India, it's in Pakistan as well, because there's a big worry I see on your television channels where the debates are going on. What will happen to Pakistan? My point is, please understand the geopolitical new framework. America is not a superpower today. America is one of the powers. I understand that the aid which was coming of the US agency, international development aid, that has been stopped in Pakistan, it has been stopped in India as well. See, all those things are fine. But the point is what you already have. Why don't you build on that? For example, if I was to speak for Pakistan, I would argue that today your relations with Bangladesh are good. Today, the relations of Bangladesh with China are good. Today, President Zardari has just come back or he's still there in China. You see, when you look at this evolving matrix, there is a big void today in South Asia. As I said, after 2016, India decided to basically shift the foreign policy to BIMSTEC and to shift it to the Indo-Pacific. There is a void. Who can fill the void? It is countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and China.
Yeah, if they can,
When you talk
they
of,
they
when
can.
you talk of connectivity, these are the countries. And China is a very smart country. They have ideas. But the point is, you have to reach out to them. See, I'm talking for the region's good. The region benefits. If you will keep waiting that we want to talk with Pakistan, India, and India is not talking with us, look, it is not happening. You know,
Mhm.
the other day also, I heard the Prime Minister of Pakistan saying that we are open to talks, and but the point is that India is not open to talks with you. Simple.
Yeah, so you
So
don't see
my
any
point
chance
is,
in you don't see any chance
not at
of.
all. Imtiaz Sahab, please understand there is an agenda of the government within the country that precludes any close ties with Pakistan.
Okay, so that makes
You see,
things
it's
very
very
clear.
simple.
So
It's simple as that. It's
okay,
simple as that.
okay. So as
You know,
part of
it's
the
yeah.
national power projection, so no talks with
So there is
no
the
talks with
ideological
Pakistan,
issue.
and no sort of
Because
economic
of
cooperation.
ideological issue, you see,
Mhm.
there can be no cooperation with Pakistan because we refuse to accept. Pakistan has enough problems today. There's no denying the fact. But as I have consistently maintained, as far as the military power is concerned, it is a peer competitor of India,
Mhm. Okay. So thank you very
Pakistan.
much. I think that makes things very clear. So whatever little hope we have in Pakistan of India, Pakistan actually resuming their dialogue, Mr. Sawhney says that's for the time being
You,
not.
Imtiaz Saab, you have so many options which you are not exploring. It's like having blinkers on. It's like
Yes.
having blinkers on.
Yeah, I mean, you are very right. There are many options, but only if we put our house in order, if we call out, make the right choices, and only then can we basically take advantage of those options. So thank you very much for
Y-
this nice,
Yes.
insightful session.